Today I will share my review book, Attitude is Everything, third chapter. It's a great chapter, and the title of the chapter is Bag Your Bad Attitude. Bag Your Bad Attitude. It's a great chapter because it shares that attitude could be a luggage. That means we need to understand how we potentially could put attitude in the luggage, and we need to put only good things and throw away all the bad things. So we'll share my quotes of the book and really section that I think that we need to reflect the most. So the first one is that later in life, I realized that you don't have to let what someone else says affect you negatively. So it means a lot of times, a lot of people potentially could say something negative about you, about your skill set, about how you look, or anything. But it doesn't need to affect you. You're able to choose to say that I'm not taking it. I'm not willing to accept that. A lot of times, when you understand that the negative feedback sometimes coming from the people who do not have the right to say that. And of course, that's why we need to choose, not accept all the things that they say. Bad attitudes are heavy baggage. So if you haven't been getting what you want out of life, if you feel stuck, overlooked, unappreciated, or unfulfilled, it could be that you have picked up a bad attitude that is holding you back. It's interesting that a lot of times we are able to complain about everything that is going on. Our boss is not appreciating us, like we feel stuck. There's a lot of things that is not going well in our lives. And what is the reason? We can potentially complain, or we able to take ownership and say, like, what's going on in my internal world that I'm influencing my external world. And that is one thing that internal world is attitude. How you show up in the world, because I truly believe that attitude is one of the things that is really shows vibrations. Because I believe in vibrations, I believe that you attract based on vibrations and your attitude. Because a great attitude is a high vibrations. Bad attitude is low vibrations. And based on that, you will attract good or bad things. And that's why, like, when you feel stuck, when you overlooked, a lot of times it's because you attracting bad things with your low vibrations because your attitude is wrong. So we need to fix that to make sure that we're able to get better results. A good attitude begins with self-awareness. So when you practice self-awareness, you give yourself far greater control of your actions. And this control gives you options. This is very, very powerful. When you practice self-awareness, you give yourself far greater control of your actions, and this control gives you options. So it means that when you're really able to understand that you're able to control your attitude, and that attitude can control your actions, and when you're able to control your actions based on your attitude, that gives you much more options. Because when you have bad attitude, most likely we'll have one or two options just to do it. But when you have great attitude and you control your actions, that could give you so many more options to choose and which one direction I need to go. Of course, that could feel overwhelming at some point because you have all the options. Because you have great attitude, you are very successful, you make results. And because you're making results, doors are opening. You're supposed to be happy about it. And if you have improved your attitude and you are getting even more results. Very, very powerful. You can also channel the energy of the negative emotion into positive action. So that means that if you say that, okay, I have my great attitude, but I have a lot of negative emotion. That means that you are able to channel that negative emotion to depression, to disappointment, to neglect, or you can channel that the same emotion, that massive emotion of negative emotion, you're able to lead to action. That's what I said. If you feel very disappointed, very depressed, maybe go to gym and use that energy to the gym to punch that maybe bag, maybe lift some weights. And that will be a much better use of your negative emotion rather than really laying down in bed and really depressing and being a victim at the same time. Because when you really move out of bed and going to gym to exercise and build yourself, you become a victor. If you don't learn to control or rechannel a negative attitude, it can have a terrible impact on your life. This is a whole book is all about it. If you do not learn how to control and rechannel a negative attitude, really that could potentially have terrible impact on your life. Because again, as I said, vibration, I believe in vibrations. That means if you have always low vibrations, you will attract low opportunities, your body will be low energy, and everything will be low. If we want to have higher things, we need to really elevate ourselves and really to channel the negative attitude, negative emotions into things that really could elevate. If we don't need to seek massive steps, but we're able to really improve small things that we could really improve, because I truly believe I'm a massive believer in small steps. Turning points into learning points. This is beautiful as well, what he mentioned. The idea was to convert those turning points into learning points. So it means that when you're going in life and we really look into looking in the past and look into what kind of turning points I had in my life, and then we check, okay, what happened? And we say I made a mistake. It was a setback, it was a failure, and there was a turning point when I made a decision to go to that direction. So that means we need to say, why I made a decision. So move that turning point to a learning point. Very beautiful part. That it means that every single turning point in your life has a learning point, and we're able to see that. So instead of beating yourself for over mistakes you have made or losses you have suffered, you resolve to learn from them and move on. This is very beautiful, to move on, learn from them and move on. Because a lot of times, until you move on from the past mistakes, you will keep repeating them. Until you learn from the past mistakes, you keep repeating them and still remember them. Because when you are able to outgrow your mistake, what happens? You're able to teach other people, to impact other people to go through the same mistake, and you're able to and willing to be vulnerable and share that because you are much, much higher. So the bigger the mistake, the bigger the lesson, the bigger the leadership opportunities for you, because there will be a lot of people who will want to learn what you did to overcome that mistake, that failure. Very powerful. 3 types of bad attitude baggage. This is a very good part of the chapter, is that he shares that 3 types of attitude baggage. So to begin this mental exercise, please picture in your mind 3 big pieces of carry-on luggage. Because we need to have a luggage, and okay, we need to have 3 parts of the luggage, and we potentially could put something in those baggages. So first baggage is if only. So the first piece of bad attitude many people carry around is marked if only. This is baggage that has to do with the past. Okay, it's often full of unfinished business, plans that went over, or hurt feelings that have not healed. And again, this shows in the past. So that means that all the things if only. And he gave me a few examples, like if only I spend more time with my children. That's again part of regrets. If only. Because a lot of we think about what we did in the past and we wanted to change that, but we don't have the ability to change past, so we need to accept, learn, and move forward. So if only baggage gets heavier over time because it keeps growing and growing if you don't let it go. This is super, super powerful. I'll repeat it one more time. The if only baggage gets heavier over time because it keeps growing and growing if you don't let it go. So that means if you have, let's say, children, and you didn't spend enough time with them, that means if you don't let it go, that you didn't understand, you did what you could, the best of what you could, that regret could become bigger and bigger and bigger and heavier and heavier and heavier. So that means you need to let it go before it becomes very, very, very heavy to carry. The second part is the baggage is what now baggage. What now baggage? This emotion baggage is packed under pressure of the present. So it's packed under pressure of the present. It's heavy with the stress and weighty expectations. So what it is that mainly that when something happens right now, presently, sometimes we do not know what to do now. So we don't have a clarity. Okay, what kind of actions we're supposed to take to make sure that we know exactly what to do right now. So that means that he gave examples. So I have been downsized. What now? I have 2 projects due on the same day. What now? So they have just overwhelming. Okay, what are they supposed to do with all this stuff going on in my life? And the last one baggage that we always reflect on is what if baggage. So the third type of negative emotional baggage people commonly carry around is labeled what if. It is usually packed with worries about the future, which result when people think about the potential problems ahead rather than the potential opportunities. So that means this is based on those 3 baggages are one of the past, one of the present, and one of the future. So that means we're able to look into the future and say, like, what are problems will potentially arise in the future? and that potentially could create a lot of stress. So what if I lose my job? What if my money runs out? What if I end up alone? Like, there's a lot of things that potentially we could really create from nowhere. What if? Because it was every single aspect of our lives we can create a what if. So there's nothing wrong in planning ahead. But what's the most important part is that there's a difference between focusing on the solutions to the problems and merely focusing on the problems. So it's good to ask what if, but you need to say, like, what if happens this? Like, what I will do then? So having that solution to make sure that you know that you prepared, you get ready. So this is a massive difference, because sometimes you can say I'm focusing on the problem and you have stress about it, but if you know the solution, what if that happens, and you know the solution, you're not stressed about it at all. The next part that he mentioned is the root causes of bad attitude, and he shared 5 main causes. So low self-esteem, stress, fear, resentment and anger, and inability to handle change. Interesting. The next part is the basics of attitude awareness. This is very, very important. The basics of attitude awareness. So one of the most important steps you can take toward achieving your greatest potential in life is to learn to monitor your attitude and its impact on your work performance, on your relationships, and on everyone around you. So powerful. So that means when we think about our attitude, we only not just understanding attitude, but it's not that that's stagnant. We need to monitor that, how it's going up, how it's going down, because when you know that exactly how your attitude impacts your work performance, your relationships, and everyone around you, you are willing to invest more time to monitor and to make sure that you pumped up attitude up, that you could influence people around you in the most positive way. So when he gave examples of when you go through the day, and as soon as you're able to ask yourself, what attitude did you bring into this meeting? What attitude did you bring to this meeting? And if you say that I don't like this attitude, maybe I'm able to change this attitude that I could give the best out of me into this meeting. Very, very powerful lesson. That means that you're able to change even when you're in a meeting. Your attitude could be changed when you're aware and able to catch yourself that maybe attitude is not what you would love to have. The baggage you carry shapes your attitude. Okay, so in order to do something about your bad attitude, we must first understand where they came from. So that sometimes, and we have mentioned that a lot of times our attitude comes from like tender age, from very young age. We need to supposed to spend a little bit of time to understand, okay, why I have that bad attitude. Maybe I'm able to really totally get rid of those previous experiences that is deep in me, that I could have a better attitude, because bad attitudes accompany those burdensome emotions, because we tend to think that what has happened to us in the past will continue to happen to us for the best for the rest of our lives. Too many people see their future in the past. It's like driving towards while looking in the rear view mirror. You may move ahead a little, but sooner or later you are going to crash. So that means if you driving forward, but you're looking always in the rear and mirror, you will crash us sooner or later. So that means a lot of times people have bad attitude because something happened in the past, and people still looking in that past rather than really forgetting about the past, learning from the past, and looking in the future and taking action today towards that positive future. He shared the story of the lady that she achieved self-discovery when she attended her first meeting of chapter of adult children alcoholics, and she shared that a woman was very, very successful, but she always sabotaged herself. She was doing very well and then sabotaged herself. She's doing very well and she had sabotaged herself. She still learned that she was sabotaging herself. So that means maybe that if you see yourself that maybe you have a great attitude and then you go down, maybe you have great attitude and go down. And maybe that's because you are sabotaging yourself because of trauma in the past that doesn't allow you to improve your self-esteem, and you always try to really go back where you feel that you belong. Attitude assessment. He shared that we're supposed to could really do attitude assessment on a consistent basis to make sure that we understand where we are with our attitude. And he really recommended to, on a sheet of paper, make a list of negative attitudes that may have held you back in the past, And beside each one, write down what you think the source of that attitude might be. What is the baggage at what does it contain? So that means when you understand that, really look into what really made your decisions and what made that decision and where that came from and why that you have that baggage could be really important to really reflect on your attitude. And he shared two questions that you're able to ask. Is first one is, how do you respond to stressful situations? How do you respond to stressful situations? And that could show how good your attitude is. Because if you blew it and get angry and become depressed, maybe your attitude is not in place. But if you get energized, maybe you already worked on your attitude. Next one is just look at those chores and tasks that stresses you out and think about what emotions or experience might be contributing to that stress. It's very interesting because a lot of times when we think about the things that stresses us out, we're able to say like, okay, what experience could led me to really have this stress? Because maybe you're able to dig 20 years ago, something happened in the past that led to start believing that there is a stressful situation, even though that is not. For example, I was attacked when I was 5 years old and I have stitches on my face because I was attacked by a dog. For majority of my life, I used to be afraid of dogs and I was able to overcome that fear. But again, that means a lot of things what happens in the past, you can carry for a long time. The second question that you potentially could ask regarding attitude is, do you tend to look at the world in a pessimistic way? Because people who have a pessimistic way, a lot of times it's because they just have a bad attitude. Something happened in the past, and he shared a great story that a lady had a bad attitude because her dad always used to share all his dreams, but he never succeeded in those dreams. And he had like a bad attitude regarding dreamers because she saw that her father even had a lot of massive dreams, but he never pursued them. And then, of course, that could lead to pessimism. So we need to understand what kind of experiences led to that pessimism. And the last thing that I would love to mention from this chapter, even this chapter was really great, is that you are a unique human being. The world has never before seen and will never see the likes of you again. You were born to bless others. So we need to understand that we are unique and special. And we need to really allow ourselves to have great attitude because of that. And only the limits of our mindset can determine the boundaries of our future. So our mindset and our attitudes will determine our boundaries, our future. It's a great chapter, and I'm looking forward to really read chapter 4 and share my review as well. And bye for now.